Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing a review on the Ryobi Quiet Strike Pulse Driver. Now this is an intriguing tool because it claims that it can deliver the same power as a traditional impact wrench while only generating half of the sound. Now if you work in an office or in a home, you know that this is quite important because there's a lot of times when you're not able to use a traditional impact wrench because of the sound. Going over some of the specifications, the Quick Strike can generate 3,200 rotations per minute with 2,200 impacts per minute. It stands with a 4 amp hour battery approximately 10 inches tall, 8 inches long. The weight of the drill by itself without a battery is approximately 3 pounds. When you add the battery in, it's approximately 5 to 6 pounds. Now I've heard in other reviews that they're criticizing the weight of the tool, being that over time it may cause fatigue or cause people to prematurely get tired on the job site. For me, the weight doesn't bother me. I'm used to carrying heavy things and using heavier tools. So in my case, I'm okay with it. It has a solid plastic construction with a rubber overmold. The grip feels very secure, very nice on my hand. It comes with a quick change chuck. This is 1/4 inch, and this is very interesting. I'm actually going to insert a clip on how this works, and you can see that it has its ups and its downs. This has a mag tray for holding screws or additional bits. It also has a bit holder in the front here. It has a belt holder which can be flipped right or left depending on your orientation. It has a variable speed trigger, which is very interesting because it goes from 0 to 3,200 RPMs. And once you get used to that, it's actually quite convenient. It has the tri-beam light, and these are meant to eliminate any shadows around screws that you're driving. A very interesting thing about the light, as you can tell, once you pull the trigger, the light comes on. Once you let off of the trigger, the light goes off. There is no delay. This can be a bit of an issue for some people as they do use the light as a inspection, as a flashlight. Another thing that I did notice with the light, the tighter that you squeeze the trigger, the brighter that the light actually becomes. With that clip, you should have noticed that as I pulled the trigger, the light did get brighter. This can be an issue for me, and because if you're in a low light situation and you want to drive something slowly, your light is reduced, and that could cause an inconvenience as you're working. And it may make you switch to another drill. I feel that as soon as you pull the trigger, the light should become 100%, and at that point in time, no matter how fast you're driving something, at the position of the trigger, you have 100% light, which I believe also can be a safety issue. It does have 3 different positions on the directional. It has forward, it has reverse, and then it has middle. The middle position, which is a trigger lock position, is where you should be at whenever you change batteries or whenever you change any of the bits in the chuck. It makes sense, that way you don't accidentally squeeze the trigger. Now we've talked about the pros, now I must talk about a couple of the cons. In reading through the owner's manual, I found out in cold conditions that this drill will not be able to perform at maximum capacity. The reason why is that it has hydraulic fluid inside, and when that gets cold, it becomes more viscous. That would impair this tool until it warms up, either from use or keeping it in your home or traveling with it in your truck cabin. The second con, in reading through the owner's manual once again, if you use this tool at high demand, full capacity for a long period of time, it may have a tendency to overheat. Again, the hydraulic fluid may store that heat and then cause it to heat maybe more prematurely than a traditional impact driver. So let's talk about the main differences between an impact driver and a pulse driver. An impact driver generates its force through hammers impacting the anvil. The anvil actually drives the screws into the material that's connected to the chuck. In order to create as much force as it does, the hammer will swing very rapidly around the anvil, smacking the anvil in two different places, and then quickly moving above the anvil, and then smacking the other side. Whenever you hear an impact driver being used, that is the loud noise or action that you hear. This is a very strong action, and it's efficient use of power. Moving over to the pulse driver, it's a completely different technology. As you can see, the center is a cam, the outer is considered the hammer assembly, and then you have pistons right here that move up and down. As the hammer assembly rotates, you can see here that the pistons are not pushed in, and the pistons are pushed in here. And as you can imagine, as this rotates, it doesn't have a smacking action. It actually gently pushes in the piston. As the piston is pushed in, it creates a very high pressure on the hydraulic fluid that it's saturated in, and from my understanding, it pushes that hydraulic fluid through veins, which creates a pulsing action. Now, the fact that it doesn't have a very hard smack reduces the vibration on the person using the tool. And not having a smacking action, it reduces the sound. Also, being saturated in hydraulic fluid helps the sound as well. But this is my general understanding of the differences between the two technologies. I will be testing this drill out tonight. I will be using 4 different screws. The first screw is going to be a 3-inch coarse thread screw. Now this is a typical screw that most people will use around their house, probably the most. The second screw is going to be a 4-inch fine thread screw. The reason why I'm using this screw is often those types of screws have bound up in a large piece of wood, and it's either warped or I've had to break them because I haven't been able to get them out or drive them the complete way into the wood. Now that typically happens with drill drivers, not so much impact drivers. The third, I'm going to be using a 3/8, 2.5-inch long lag screw. The fourth, which is going to be the final, is a 4-inch 5/16 lag screw. It's going to be galvanized as well. This is going to give a good practical example of how this can be used around your house. Typically, in other reviews, you'll see someone using a very large 6-inch lag, or 10 or 12, or whatever they can find. I'm not going to do that here because I'm going to try and keep it as practical as possible on what people would be using this around their house on a regular basis or semi-regular basis, depending on the application. Okay, first on our test, we're going to drive the 3-inch coarse thread screw. Next, we're going to drive the 4-inch fine thread screw. And for the next one, we're going to do the 2.5-inch 3/8-inch lag screw. And for the last one, we're going to drive the 5/16 4-inch lag screw. This is galvanized. As you can see, it drove all of the screws very well without any problems. During this testing, I think it's very important for me to show you the difference between a traditional impact driver and the pulse driver. Now, I have to warn you that I am not turning the volume down. This will be the same volume that is for the Quiet Strike. As you can see, This was driven in the same, but it was much louder. Now, this has been my go-to impact driver for many years. This is a Milwaukee 18 volt. This is a brushed version, and I've never had any issues out of it, except for I cannot use this in my house, nor can I use this when I'm in an office. In conclusion, this is a nice drill. The claims that Ryobi is making seem to be true. This is powerful, and it's quiet. I feel confident in using this in homes and in an office. It has many nice features, such as a variable speed trigger, a quick change chuck, a belt clip, magnetic tray, and a bit storage. However, it's not without its flaws. The light doesn't have a time delay on it, and the chuck, being that it is a quick change, still ejects the bits. If you're on a ladder, you could possibly lose bits, and this could cost you time. Also, at 3200 RPMs, it's very easy to strip screws out, especially if you're not applying enough pressure down onto the screw. If I had to give this a rating between 1 and 10, 1 being that it can't do the job, and 10 meaning that it couldn't do the job any better, I would put this at a 6 to 7. I believe that the technology is evolving every year, and I look forward to future versions of this drill. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe. And as always, stay blessed.